Welcome, everyone. I am going to give just a few minutes to allow everyone time to join the webinar today before we get started with our content. And to those just joining, I promise we won't sit here in silence the entire time. We are going to give just a minute or two to let everyone have a chance to get into the webinar before we get started with our content today. Just another minute or so here before we get started on our live demo. All right, last call for anyone to join so we can get to our very exciting topic today. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy home and work lives to come spend some time with us today. So today's OneStream live demo webinar is going to focus on a very critical and important topic in finance, which is the financial close process. So my name is Whitney Gillespie. I'm a product marketing manager here at OneStream, and today I'm joined by my colleague and one of our amazing senior solutions consultants, Jeremy Hopkins. So I'm going to kick us off today with a short introduction to the OneStream platform, and then I'll hand it over to Jeremy for a demonstration of OneStream's financial close capabilities. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the Zoom chat Q&A. In order to offer the most comprehensive demo possible, we're not going to be answering Q&A live today, but we will follow up within a week via email in response to any questions you'd like to ask during the session today. So I do want to ensure that we have plenty of time for our demo today. But before we dive into that, I'd like to take a quick moment to introduce what we are and what makes OneStream unique. So at OneStream, our mission is to take finance further with what we call the Digital Finance Cloud. And this isn't just another collection of disconnected tools or features. It's an all-in-one platform that unifies financial close, reporting, and planning with a strong focus on finance-led operational planning. And what sets us apart is the embedded AI services and the key platform services we provide. These include a unified data model, data quality, analytics services, workflow, security, and more. So in essence, we're not just offering solutions, we're delivering a comprehensive and cohesive ecosystem where everything works together seamlessly. And one of the most exciting parts of our platform approach is that we can innovate continuously without burdening you with additional software every time a new capability is added. That's really the true power of the digital finance cloud. It evolves with your organization's needs, staying agile and scalable while reducing complexity and cost. So in short, OneStream isn't just about solving today's financial challenges. It's about empowering your teams to be more agile, efficient, and insightful as your business evolves. This approach ensures that your finance teams are equipped with the tools they need to drive better decisions and achieve superior outcomes. OneStream offers the complete financial close and consolidation process in a single solution. So because the platform is fully unified, customers can easily drill back from your variance analysis on your financial statements all the way to the underlying transactions, which is really critical to drive a controlled, auditable, and complete close process. So it is really this capability to unify all of these processes in parallel and without complexity that gives OneStream the ability to replace multiple legacy or connected finance applications as well as spreadsheets. And it's really a big opportunity for organizations to drive total cost of ownership savings and generate return from your OneStream investment. And OneStream's platform includes best-in-class financial consolidations and reporting, and this has been validated by industry analysts like Gartner and others. We support virtually all statutory reporting needs, including US GAAP, IFRS, and multi-GAAP and local requirements. To provide that ability, OneStream has capabilities to handle very sophisticated requirements at the largest and most complex organizations in the world that require intercompany eliminations, flexible ownership structures, allocations, and all with a complete audit trail and drill through capability that provides users with insights into every single number within their reports and analysis. And as we all know, clear and accurate delivery of financial information is critical for finance teams to answer the needs of their stakeholders and to guide enterprise business decisions. So to support that, OneStream provides built-in reporting and analysis capabilities with a report writing tool for users, as well as access to about 50 pre-built web reports. And we also have guided reporting capabilities that walk users through the process of report building to drive ease of use and adoption within the solution. For accounting teams that like that flexibility of Excel, you can leverage our Excel Quick View add-in for ad hoc analysis and reporting. And finally, all OneStream reports and charts can be blended with Microsoft Office content or visualized through our self-service dashboarding capabilities. And you can expand the value of your platform with our Solution Exchange. And these are solutions that are built by OneStream and our partners that are built directly on our platform. So the Solution Exchange is where you can download, configure, and deploy solutions based on your ongoing needs. So we have the marketplace, which offers solutions such as sensible machine learning, people planning, account reconciliations, transaction matching, etc. And those are built for day-to-day finance processes and are fully supported by a development team and roadmap. The Partnerplace ecosystem allows certified developer partners to sell and support their solutions on the OneStream platform. And we currently have 5 partners contributing with over 7 approved solutions available, and more are always coming. OpenPlace solutions are supported by the community, and they are open source. These solutions are built to development standards and include CPM and ESG blueprints. And because all of these solutions are developed on the OneStream platform, they all work seamlessly with the core solutions the way that you would expect, just like applications on your iPhone or your smartphone. And I just want to point out, as is relevant to our conversation today, 2 of the solutions available on the Solution Exchange, account reconciliations and transaction matching, are combined into a single download as a financial close solution. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to the very capable hands of Jeremy for a live demo of OneStream's financial close capabilities.
Thank you, Whitney.
Yes.
And here we go. So my name is Jeremy Hopkins. I'm a solutions consultant with OneStream. Been with the company for about 3 years now, and I'll be taking us through the financial close process inside of our Gulfstream demonstration environment. Gulfstream is a golf-based company, so if you see plenty of references to golf and golf equipment as we go through, that's because our company is in the business of golfing equipment manufacture, as well as a multitude of other things that we'll go through as we talk to today. Up on the screen now, you do have a view of my home screen, and every user has the ability to design their own home screen within the OneStream application. So for someone at the top of the organization who's very interested in monitoring things like KPIs and performance indicators throughout the business, they would be able to put something like you see at the bottom of the screen here as part of their homepage. So they have a quick snapshot of where the company stands as they log into the platform. And someone who's more operationally focused, who has a small contribution to the overall close and reporting process, may link directly to a task environment instead of something like this at the top of the house. You'll also notice we have a lot of functionality within the OneStream platform. Today, we'll be focusing our view on the close and consolidation process, but you'll see there at the top of the screen, reporting, planning, modeling, all of those are key tenets to what we do inside the OneStream platform. And that functionality is certainly available for users who choose to adopt OneStream. And if you'd like to see more about that OneStream functionality, I encourage you to reach out to us directly. We can then have a tailored demonstration for you and the business processes you're trying to solve. But for financial close, we're going to start off with task management, which you'll see right here. And task management is just a way to organize all of those day-to-day tasks that occur within the organization, regardless of what process it may be involved in. So at the top of the screen, you will see things like a time and date and time indicator saying that what period we're working on, as well as the opportunity to group and categorize different tasks based off of what they are. All of these charts are interactive. So if you want to take a look, for instance, at past due task, simply clicking on that past due icon would bring that up. And now you see a list of all tasks that are past due. From my own experience, I can say past due tasks are the ones that get the most attention usually. And so that's where people normally gravitate when they're trying to see what's going on. We can see here a number of different processes, including closing different regions, as well as some forecast related activity. But if we want to close and hone down our view a little bit more on one particular task, we can go up to our groups here and we'll see all the different things that we are doing inside of the OneStream platform in this example. So we have budgeting, we have transaction matching, ESG reporting, as well as that close for the North America region, which is what we'll be focusing on today. And we'll see that for our close process, thankfully, we are all caught up at this point. But we do see things like tasks that are coming due within one day. And if I open those up, I can see exactly what's happening here, short description of this information. And by clicking on that task, it actually brings up a full list of all the different optionality that we have to enable inside the OneStream platform. Things like details of who it's assigned for, a more detailed description perhaps, the opportunity to attach commentary here or even add attaching files to this. This is especially handy for things like meetings that happen as part of the close process. OneStream is a fully auditable platform. And so if you were attaching something like meeting minutes to document that a meeting took place, would be a good opportunity there to keep all of your control documentation centrally located for ease of access come time for an audit. You can also include things like detailed instructions. These are things like desktop procedures, for instance, where you can include written descriptions of what your people need to go through as part of completing their process. You can also do things like put in screenshots or even attach videos as part of the instructions, just to keep a good, accurate accounting of what needs to be done as part of the close process. One of my favorite features within the Task Manager is the ability to look at this information in a Gantt chart, the ability to see what's coming up, where we are in the process, and if there are any dependent processes that need to be completed that may be holding us up as we go through the close process. In this case, we see a whole list of things here, and we can see the status of these green check marks indicating that the process has been complete. So things like closing some of our subledgers are done. And we can see which tasks are still yet to be done. Things like importing ledger balances into the OneStream environment. Clicking again on those three dots pulls up that same list of tasks we just saw a moment ago. And for tasks that are occurring inside the OneStream platform, clicking this execute button will actually take us to the workflow associated with that task. Also important to note that as we move over to this task, once this task is complete in this screen, this will automatically update the task manager status, meaning you don't have to go back and reopen the task manager, mark it as complete, and then disrupt your workflow like you might have to with, say, an Excel-based tracker where you have to open the Excel-based tracker, update the status, save it, share it back out with the group. Instead, this is all interconnected. So as the task is completed here, it syncs back to the task manager, keeping everyone well informed of what tasks are outstanding and giving a real-time accounting of where we are in the close process. In this case, though, it takes us to a data load screen where we have a variety of ways to get data into the OneStream platform. We do have things like automated pulls of information from existing systems. This is great for things like ERP systems where we're pulling large volumes of data such as trial balance related information, or even other systems such as HR systems if we're working through our budgeting process, need to get like an employee roster in or something along those processes. That's an automated data pull, and we can connect to various systems in that manner. Once we have those connections in place, it can be an automated trial balance pull as we see has been completed here. In this case, it's actually reaching back out to an SAP-based system and pulling in those balances on our behalf. This is a scheduled and recurring pull that our customers have the ability to define the schedule that information is pulled in on. And then there's an automatic refresh, could be daily at 5 a.m. before people arrive into the office, or it could actually occur multiple times within the day. With that direct connection, though, you do have the ability to do what we call an ad hoc request of information. In this case, you just have the ability to go in, say if you've posted some entries, or you want to see a fresh pull of data for any reason, you can reach back out directly to those systems. Clicking this load and transform button is now initiating that request. going back out to those underlying ERP systems and pulling in that data from those systems, just giving us the most up-to-date and accurate information as it comes through. And we'll see this will happen pretty quickly. OneStream has very robust calculation engines behind it. So a lot of our customers are seeing very quick run times as it goes through, pulls different information from those systems, and then brings that into the platform for use. One of the things we'll see once this data has been brought in is it will provide the data, the audit trail of how this information arrived in the platform. And you'll see that indicated here. We actually, again, pulled back to that SAP system. And if I expand this widget down, you can see that it actually has now time and date stamped of who did this and when this action was performed, as well as where it came from. We can see this is actually referencing one of our connectors to that external system. It'll also give me a preview of the data as it comes in, so I can see what information is being pulled in. And then we can pass that information over the OneStream logic engines for the first time with some validation steps. And you will notice these workflow steps at the top of my screen are dynamic and configurable, and you can change what steps are necessary for each step in your process so that things that are coming from, like a flat file load, which we'll do in a minute, have a little bit more rigor around those processes instead of something that is fairly routine, like reaching out to a connected source system and just initiating that pull of information. As we see there, everything is passed through. We're getting all green checks as we go through. And final step here is just to load that information into the OneStream cube. And this now will complete that pull of information from that connected system. As I mentioned, there are multiple ways we can get information in. Direct Connect is probably going to be the most seamless and straightforward, but I will say it's not where many of our customers start, especially as they're validating historical data. A lot of times that does take place with something like a load of flat file information. So as I move over here, that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to pull in a trial balance of information, as well as a supplemental sales detail file. And we'll see that these files that we're pulling in, we've added a little bit more rigor to our process at the top. We now have 5 steps, including some confirmations that we're going to run over the data, as well as some data validation to catch anything that may be coming through that is not part or has not been appropriately configured within the OneStream platform. So a load and transform here brings me up to a place where we can select which files I'm going to bring in. As I mentioned, I will bring in a trial balance. We'll bring that guy in first, and we'll see that same username, user stamp, and time and date stamp associated with this information as it pulls in. You'll also notice that as I expand this down, you do have the option to open this file directly as it was from the source before it was parsed by the OneStream platform. So if you ever wanted to go back and see this file in its original state, you do have the capability to open that file directly from OneStream and see how it looked before it was brought into the platform. We are able to bring in lots of different types of information in this same manner as well, be it Excel files, PRN files, even text-based files. As long as it has text-based characters in the file, we would be able to bring that in and interact with that data in OneStream. And there again, we see that original file coming in with the same audit information attached to it. As we move along our process now, we'll see our bubbles start to change over here, indicating where we are in terms of our steps. And as we move on to validate this information, again, just going to go over the OneStream logic engine just to make sure that nothing is coming up as a potential source of issue. In this case, though, we do have an unmapped account where we have a source value coming in from that system, but it does not have an assigned target value. And this is one of the ways that OneStream can inform users that there may be a potential problem with their data or alert them that something needs to be addressed before being able to move on with their process. OneStream has 2 ways to do that. One is a soft warning, which we'll see an example of in a moment, which just says, hey, you might want to take a look at this. And then we have the hard warning, which is this one right here, actually stopping my process. So I would not be able to move forward with the remaining steps of my import process without first correcting this error. Now, this could be something where you want this passed along to someone else within the organization if you have a certain approval process for mapping information, in which case this may appear as a soft warning for the user uploading the information, notifying them that there is an issue, and also notifying the person responsible for correcting that issue that they now have a task awaiting completion based off of this not being assigned. In this case, though, I do have the permissions to go ahead and find the account that this is associated with, and I'll just filter my account tree over here, select my cache and other equivalents. Double clicking that now populates that target value for me. And as I save this correction to the error identified by the OneStream platform, this will hopefully resolve that. And we'll see that now change back to green, and I have the option to move on farther into my process. With the process of information, again, this is just another layer of applying business rules, transformation rules to data coming into the OneStream platform, making sure everything is in alignment and going where it is supposed to as part of our defined mapping that we have within the OneStream platform. And we get a green check mark there, again, saying I can move forward. Finally, we're just going to have the opportunity to run some confirmation rules over this to make sure that everything is ticking and tying. Things like a trial balance are actually balancing, supplemental sales details like we loaded, tie back to the trial balance of information that we previously had here. In this case, we see an example of that soft warning that I was talking about, where it actually is now run a check and said, this is the trial balance of information I got, but the trial balance has a different value than the sales detail that was also loaded as part of my data collection. We have set materiality here, though, so that any difference less than $1,000 does not need any action to be done over it because it fell within the tolerance we've set. However, it's still going to let us know that there is a small difference, giving us the opportunity to make a correction if we deem necessary, but not preventing us from moving on with our process if this is something that is expected, recurring, maybe just small differences exist, and we're okay with that, which we are in this case. Finally, moving over to a workspace here, I'm going to get an example of what this data looks like for the first time as it starts to build itself into financial statements. I'll also see we're automatically or we're immediately kicking off with things like variance analysis, where I'm looking at better or worse period over period here. So we've got the June period this year compared to the June period last year. And we can see that we have balance sheet and income statement, base level financials formed from the data we've loaded. You'll also notice over here to the right-hand side, I'm on cash deposits now, and my cash deposits are broken up of a lot of different accounts summing to my cash total. These balances are important because this is where the level of detail necessary for reconciliations to be complete. So by loading data here as part of our close process, we're also loading data into our account reconciliations workflow, because the last period would be our beginning balances. The information we've just loaded here is now the ending balances. And so now our reconciliations for accounts that require it would be populated with beginning and ending balances, as well as any differences that need to be explained during the movement of that account throughout the period. So this now feeds directly in to our reconciliations. Once a reconciliation has been complete, any subsequent data load that changes the value of one of these sub-accounts where reconciliations are being completed would automatically trigger that reconciliation to be kicked back out and a new reconciliation pathway opened up to explain that new ending balance now as opposed to the balance that was previously there. A lot of benefits here, but the big one is you're never going to get to a situation where you have a reconciled account not equaling the ending balance that is represented in the financial statements, unlike having a disconnected tool in the process where that real possibility could exist. Once I'm completed my review of this information, I'm satisfied that everything is in order, I can complete my workflow here, giving myself a green check mark and moving ourselves farther along in the process. So far we've talked about connecting directly to underlying source systems to pull data, as well as loading flat file information into the OneStream platform. There's also two additional data method entries or data methodologies that we have to get data into the platform, which is the use of forms to collect things like account movement activity. In this case, we have things like a PP&E roll forward and a debt schedule. These are important components when it comes to completing things like cash flows and helping automate the collection of data to complete those cash flows as part of our process. So I can simply fill out this form, give a quick save here. You'll see my balance check now goes back to 0. I have the opportunity to insert commentary here if commentary is required. And I also have the ability to open this and work in Excel if I wanted to work in Excel to complete this process. So for users that have limited access to the tool, or they need a special, or they need a place that is more familiar to work on, maybe they're only coming in every so often to provide a small amount of data, and they're more familiar with using an Excel-based interface, they could collect this information from Excel and submit it from Excel directly back to OneStream. Again, they would have a login in Excel to keep all of the information there, time and date stamped, keeping that audit trail in track. So we have that information, but if they're just submitting it in the tool, simple complete on that form gets that guy taken care of. Same would be true for like a debt schedule. Again, the platform has said we have a variance here that needs to be corrected for. And this case looks like a short-term revolver draw that we took out. So put that information in, give that a quick save, and that should clear my variance there. Again, you also have the ability to attach information throughout any step of this process. So if you want to attach a supporting document or schedule showing this revolver draw, maybe it was a certain transaction that you wanted to attach to this, you certainly could do that, as well as adding any commentary here just to help explain the information that is being collected. Again, simple complete there gets my forms done. You'll also notice that we have required versus optional forms, and these can be date sensitive, meaning that if there is something that needs to be completed and is a required form on a quarterly period, but not a monthly period, as you cross a quarter date, that form would move from optional to required for that period, but on non-quarter ending dates for like month close processes, that would be shown as an optional form. Again, optional meaning you don't have to complete it to move on with the process. And since that's the case, I can complete this workflow without collecting that headcount information as part of my process. Again, green check marks as we're all good to go. And the final method of entering data into the OneStream platform we have is journal entries. And this is the standard debits and credits entries that most of us are used to. In this case, we do have a required tax accrual, but the OneStream platform is able to source those values from the trial balance of information we loaded. And so it can propose the entry for my review. And if I'm good with that, I have the option to do a quick post here. Once I post this journal entry, it would kick off again a different workflow for someone else to come through and approve this journal entry, because I cannot both complete the journal entry and approve the journal entry. We are enforcing segregation of duties on that front. But you'll see I do have the option to complete this workflow, because from my perspective, everything is complete, even though others in my company may still have outstanding items left to complete as it relates to the approval of this journal entry process. So give that a quick complete there, and we'll see there's lots of other optional journal entries that we could do here. And this is oftentimes a good point to just stop and think about your process a little bit, especially as you're considering implementing new technology. Where do you want journal entries and adjusting journal entries to live? Is that something where you're comfortable with your existing ERP system and you want your journal entries booked there and simply pull those entries into OneStream? Or do you want OneStream to become the place of housing all of that information? Either one is fine. So if you don't want to do journal entries inside of OneStream, we can certainly source those directly from your ERP system in much the same way we've done to this point so far. As you see, we've moved along our steps pretty quickly here, and we're almost done with our process. And the final step is that consolidation, because to this point, we have been working on a single entity collecting information. And now we're starting to see some of the outputs from the work we've done to this point in our pre-consolidation review. So we haven't yet consolidated the information we've just collected for that entity, but now we can start seeing various things that may be of interest to us. Especially for organizations that have grown through acquisition. A lot of times you find yourself with multiple ERP systems. And if you're going through a process of ERP rationalization, a screen like this could be very helpful, helping you identify which systems you're actually pulling information from. And if you have any objectives to reduce the number of ERP systems or consolidate the number of ERP systems you're using, a great option here is to track where that information is coming from and seeing if you're seeing decreased data volumes over time as you work towards migrating information from legacy systems onto a new system, or just consolidating the number of ERPs down to a handful of keeper systems, as opposed to systems that you hope to sunset and take offline. So just a helpful screen to sort of organize that information. You can also check on the consolidation status here, just showing you which entities have completed their process and are consolidated into the combined results of the company to this point, and which ones are still outstanding. And so we'll see our corporate entity at the top of the house there. Our North American equipment entity is made up of a lot of sub entities, some of which are consolidated and some of which we're actually working through right now as part of our consolidation process. And so we'll see a couple of these still outstanding for the period and some others that have already completed their process. We also get to start taking a look at now things like balance sheet and income statement by entities. And we're able to house a variety of different equity and ownership methodologies within the OneStream platform. So in this case, we see ownership of fully owned and fully consolidated entities, as well as things like equity pickup entities, where we have a minority ownership and we're just doing an equity pickup of this amount. And we can toggle the screens like this between US dollar balances versus local currency balances here as well. So if you want to take a look at things like Mexican peso balances instead of reporting currency, or Canadian dollar balances, those are available in the tool. And we do support currency conversion, as we'll talk about in a few moments. We can also see this information broken out by income statement if we want to take a look at our income statement balances to see those as well as they're coming through. And we have the ability to drill in and get more detail about these should we want to go to that level. As Whitney also mentioned in our introduction today, we also support a variety of different methodologies for reporting. Things like reporting for IFRS versus US GAAP and preparing walk files that account for the adjustments between those two reporting styles are something that is core to what we do in OneStream. We're also able to do this for things like local statutory reporting for those entities existing in other countries that require reporting specifically on the entities operating within that country. We will be able to do like a local presentation or a local GAAP basis preparation for some of those requirements. Once I've completed my review, this is where we actually do the consolidation here. And I will say this does go by pretty quick because again, OneStream is a very powerful platform with a consolidation engine behind it. So by completing this workflow, it will open me up to the process of actual consolidation. This is where we're going to take all of those local currency balances, roll those up to our corporate standard, and then we can see consolidated results from operations, including things like currency translation, intercompany eliminations, and any adjusting entries that may exist on top of this process as this process completes in the background. Once I'm complete with my process, I can move on to confirmation rules again, where we have the opportunity to just request more information about anything that's going on in the tool, even request some supporting documentation for things where we want certain information attached. And so again, we saw that sales detail earlier. Same difference still exists here, but we're not requiring a change or additional input of information. But we are requiring bank statements for all of our entities. And so in this case, I'm just going to add a required attachment here, which is one of our bank statements. You can see cells that have attachments to them with these little red triangles in the corner. So you can request this for a multitude of locations, a multitude of places, and you have the option to directly attach information to a cell within OneStream as we're doing here. So by coming in here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to add an attachment for this cell. I'm going to go out and create a new one here. And I've actually just got a bank statement saved. So I'm just going to attach my bank statement for this account, click OK and close that guy. See that red triangle pop up now, letting me know that I have done that step in my process. And I can rerun these confirmations to make sure that hopefully at this point, I get all green checks and we're good to go with our process. And there we go. All of my required checks have been complete. This workflow is complete. And now I can go up to the month of June and take a look at my consolidated results. And this is where you start to see the formation of things like your financial statements coming to fruition. So in this case, we're looking at a top of the house entity. So this is our consolidating entity up top. And we're doing variance analysis right out the gate, where we're comparing period over period, account by account. And we can select what level of detail we want to see this in. And we can also export this information to a variety of different sources. So if we want to export this or send a view like this out to our systems, we can do that. And we have a variety of different ways that we can do that. And you'll see there a variety of different file types. If someone likes to review this information in PDF, we can certainly send the PDF view of them. We also partner closely with the Microsoft ecosystem. So things like PowerPoint, Word, and Excel are all friendly formats that we can export to, as well as send this information directly to like an alias list. If we wanted to send this directly to someone via email, we can certainly predefine that list, and using parcel service, we can actually now send this on a scheduled basis. So if we wanted to send out information to the board or another group of interested individuals on certain days of the close, so we want to send a board package on day 10, we can select which financial statements we want to include in that package, select which date they go out on, and that would automatically be handled by the OneStream platform on day 10. So again, just hands-off way to automate some of those recurring processes that many of our companies are dealt with. We are looking at the income statement now, but you'll see at the top, we are preparing a lot of different financial statements here, including things like KPIs, right? So if we want to take a look at our KPIs, key performance indicators that exist in our company, we have a readout we can produce of those here as well as things like external reporting formats, where you have the alternating shading that exists over the different lines in a more report-ready presentation format for things like, bank statements or just a more clean-looking report. You'll notice that these reports also share some common characteristics. They're a little bit more defined and structured in their presentation. And this is something that would be configured as part of your implementation as well. So if you have certain structures or certain types of reporting information that your company is familiar with and wants to have in place for some of the key reports like this, the reports look and feel can be customized for each of our individual customers. As we've talked about to this point, variance analysis is also key to what we're doing because oftentimes when we're collecting actuals, the next step is, okay, well, what happened period over period? What changed? Now we see the dollar impact of those changes, but what's some commentary that help explain those changes? And this is what I call eliminating an extra monitor that may be required for your systems today. Because a lot of times what I would be faced with as my time in the office of the CFO is I would have a detailed file open on one screen, an email chain open on a third screen, and then my final screen would be consumed with trying to summarize commentary from email threads as well as collecting information from those source systems. By having commentary aggregation within the platform, we can set points within the organization that we want commentary to be aggregated to and still source some of this information from the boots on the ground in those locations. So in this case, we are looking at a consolidating entity with multiple sub-entities underneath, and we see each of those controllers now contributing their summaries of what happened in the business and giving me a place to summarize this information up as it moves up and down the chain of command in my organization. So if I'm someone in charge with writing commentary to the board, I do want to collect the input from all of the organizations that are consolidating and then want to provide summary level commentary. But if I get a question back from that board meeting saying, hey, what happened within a particular entity, or can you give me a little bit more understanding of what happened here, I can now refer back to my aggregated commentary and see some of that disaggregated commentary now where I have more actionable information coming from my different lines of business as we see here. And this is a quarterly variance. We can also do things like actuals versus budget variances, or even some of those trifold reports where we're looking at actuals, forecast, and budget information all in the same report. And again, the option to write commentary is pervasive throughout the tool. So lots of different options to view the variances once our process is complete. And again, we're able to take this information to Excel if we want to do some ad hoc analysis and some of the things we're seeing here. We're also handling intercompany variances here. So we have an intercompany heat map showing me if there are any intercompany out of balances. In this case, it's all small dollar amounts, but I can still see the commentary that is flowing back and forth between a couple of my entities, hashing out some of these intercompany discrepancies that may exist. And OneStream is perfectly capable of handling that and allowing these two controllers to provide different levels of commentary as they go throughout the process and include details of what's leading to the intercompany balances they are seeing. Lots of different ways we can slice and dice this information to narrow our view down to something that could be a specific problem or to investigate the source of a problem that has occurred multiple periods over, hopefully get to the bottom of that and help resolve any intercompany balances that may exist in the end of our process. We can also monitor our consolidation again to look at things like equity pickups as well as elimination of any indirect or partially owned information. So we can see there's some intercompany balances flushing out, but as well as some of those equity investments and equity divestitures, including accounting for non-controlling interest balances also flushing out as part of our consolidation. And we can see this again for balance sheet, income statement, as well as our cash flow accounts. And finally, as we're closing in on our process here, we have the option to handle currency within the tool as well. I mentioned OneStream is able to handle currency translation across a variety of different currencies, and we can see those effects here as we start understanding what happened. And we have the option to look at currency as either local currency or a specific currency if we have that in mind, again, using some of that rate information we've collected. And this is also an opportunity that you have to now connect to sources outside of the OneStream platform. If you want to go to something like an Oanda or other currency tool where you're collecting some of that transaction, that FX information, we can connect directly to those outside sources. In this case, we're actually sourcing some of our information directly from the Fed website. And so we're actually able to go out to things like Federal Reserve or other locations to collect some of this currency information and pipe that directly into the tool. And there we are. Looks like we are up to date with what we're referencing here. So that's always great to see in terms of our FX rates. We can also select what year, what source, and bring in different FX rates to account for all of the things we're doing within the OneStream tool. And finally, again, look at some of that commentary. We can now see all of our commentary from all of our different business units being brought together and summarized in tabular format. We can select which period and which workflow we're looking for. So if we're only working for actuals, for instance, we can limit our view to just show the commentary related to my actuals. I can see the volume of comments by user and by entity, and I can see where most of our commentary is coming from. This is also fully exportable. So if you want to export this outside of the OneStream tool, you're able to do that as well. As I've mentioned, there is an always active audit trail available, always on audit trail in OneStream. And you can see that up here by pulling up things like task activity, which actually shows you everything that's going on in the tool, who completed it, when it was completed, and what exactly it was they did. You can also create audit ready, audit exportable reports. So if you want to have things like account reconciliations or other tools where you're exporting information from, you would be able to do that directly in the tool as well. Once you have completed your close process, you do have the option to complete this workflow, which I'll do here. See that turn green. And I do have the option to acquire some certification questions here, just to make sure our questionnaire is complete. And we're collecting, again, some more of that internal audit information that's sensitive to our processes. So things like, has consolidations, have the results been reviewed? Yeah, we just walk through all of the reports that were generated from that. So I can answer this with a quick yes. And any audit issues, are there any issues for internal audit to investigate? In this case, I'll answer that with a quick no. Give that a save. Set my questionnaire status as complete. I have the option again to provide any additional commentary should I need to. And set my certification status to certified, completing my workflow. And we'll see now that green check mark now popping up over here, signaling that I have completed my close process for the period. At this point, you do have the option to lock any of this information. So if you want to lock this period, prevent any further changes, you have the option to lock that down. And this is based off permissions, right? So we do use active role-based permissions as part of the OneStream process. So only individuals with an admin status or other identified status would be able to unlock this period once it is locked and closed for people to work through. So I can go back and look at some of my dashboard tasks now, making sure we're updated in terms of our task processes. I'll give this a quick refresh to populate that. And our tasks are now completed as part of our process. And there we are. From here now, we have the option to go back. And I know, as Whitney mentioned, we have the option to go back now and look at some of the more reporting that we can do based off of this information, take a look at some of our financial charts and graphs of this information, as well as prepare more visual representations of the data as it goes throughout the tool. And just to show a quick look at what we can do from a financials-based perspective when it comes to this information, we are able to generate lots of different visualizations that go along with this. You'll see some of the charts and graphs there that we have, as well as some of those key performance indicators, as well as take a look at our financial results in more detail. So if you want to take a more detailed look at some of our financial results, we're able to look at things like summary level income statement, or we can take this down to a more detailed line item review of our income statement. Just give us some more commentary here, some more visibility into exactly what's changed, just with a few selections here. And we can select what type of report we're looking at here as well. If we want to take a look at, a variance commentary or a consolidated review, where we can see all of our entities laid out side by side, or monthly, quarterly reviews of information, whatever is most pertinent for how we want to analyze the results of operations from our business. And one of my favorites, though, is the ability to export this to something like a management reporting deck on a set interval of time. And so in this case, we are able to export this information directly to a PowerPoint presentation, give myself a drop down of which entity I want to select this for, which enables some self-service reporting as well. So you can have lower levels of dissemination of information. So if you have controllers at, just the Rocky Mountain entity, for instance, they would be able to pull their own P&L and their own set of financial statements, or for something like a board presentation, pull the consolidated company. And so as this pops up, what we'll see is this is going to be a predefined reporting deck that our management likes to take a look at. Apologize, I believe this may have popped up on a different screen. As soon as this populates, I'll drag it over so we can take a look at it. Here we are. And this is just something where we can define a predetermined format for this information. So it comes out ready for presentation. And oftentimes what I like to say is, even if you're pulling information from the tool itself, you're also pulling out some of the explanations that go along with it. And so you're able to see, some of the variance explanation that is being generated, as well as those variance reports that we looked at. Even things like ESG reporting can now flow in a more automated fashion out of the OneStream platform into something that is more digestible and more easily used by the business to help steer the business forward as it goes through. So again, just a lot of functionality here, and you again have the option to take this information to an Excel-based report if you want to do some ad hoc analysis on it, or other type of information. So with that, that brings us to the end of today's OneStream demonstration. I do encourage you to stick around for a few more minutes. We do have some closing remarks that we're going to share with everyone, just to make sure we've really gotten everything home. And if you found this helpful, obviously we're doing these most Fridays throughout the period. And so we encourage you to join us for an additional reporting session or additional demonstration session, where we can go over some of the more interesting functionalities of the OneStream platform, things like planning or modeling that may be relevant to your organization, because all of those things are part of the OneStream platform. We are uniquely unified in what we're able to do and able to deliver that information in a variety of different ways and perspectives. Happy to share those with you in the future. And thank you very much for joining today. Whitney, back over to you.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Fantastic demonstration as always. Definitely my favorite part of these sessions. So as Jeremy said, we'll just wrap up with a few more slides here and then finish off for the day here. So now that you have seen OneStream in action, I'd just like to talk about some of the customers who are currently using our platform every day. We've now surpassed 1,500 customers. We might even be getting closer to 1,600 that we've had the privilege to partner with, and we've seen significant growth over the years with 44% annual recurring revenue year over year. Another element we're incredibly proud of is our 98% renewal rate. So we're not just continuing to grow in terms of our customers, ARR, and partners as well, but having continued customer satisfaction and success is really a main part of our mission, which is to have 100% customer success. So actually seeing these numbers really drives home our dedication to that effort. To stay connected with OneStream, I'd like to encourage you to check out our website and take a look at our blog. You can subscribe to make sure you're notified when a new article of interest is published, and we'll let you know about once a week what was published, and those include things like customer success stories, other webinars like this, or thought leadership and industry analyst reports. You can also follow OneStream on your favorite social media channel. We'd love to have you follow us and share, or comment on our posts. If you're a current customer, we'd invite you to join our OneStream Customer Champions program, where you can earn points for advocating for OneStream in social media and receive gift cards and some cool OneStream swag. If you'd like to learn about our upcoming events, you can check out the events tab on our website and you'll see what we have on the schedule. We have a pretty good mix of both virtual and in-person events, including things like customer success webinars, live demos, and our in-person Splash conference. And lastly, if you would like to schedule a personalized demo, you can scan the QR code you see here on your screen, and that will go ahead and take you to the area to do so. With that, I'd like to thank you once more for joining us today. Thank Jeremy for that fantastic demonstration, and we'll be sure to follow up via email with all the questions submitted today.